Hello and welcome to the Navy Blue Corner. I'm Ian, joined as always by my good mate Lockie, and we are back here again. Unfortunately, another embarrassing loss that has us questioning the club from top to bottom, coaches, executives, and the playing list itself. It's unfortunately, again, an all too familiar feeling as a Carlton supporter. Things are very grim, but we are here to break it all down like we always do. Lockie, mate, how are you feeling and how have you reacted to the past 2 weeks?
Roller coaster, of course. All the emotions have been felt managing this grief. But honestly, right here, right now, I'm excited for Friday and what it can bring. Because who knows what is going to happen in that game? Anything's possible, right?
Gee, I'm not sure I'm at that level yet, Lockie. I think
I'm
I'm still
there, baby.
depressed. Honestly, like
I'm
that North
there.
game, obviously, it wasn't like it was somewhat expected. I wasn't shocked by what happened. I was more disappointed. And then I really wasn't shocked about what I saw against Port Adelaide. I honestly expected us to not really step up and show anything. And that's kind of what happened. And I agree with you to an extent. I'm a little bit more positive than I think I was, at least going into the Port Adelaide game, weirdly, for this clash against Collingwood. But my energy is not as high as yours, clearly. We will get into that. I want to first touch on that loss to Port. We shocked at all by the fact that we didn't respond after losing to North. How did you kind of feel after that Port Adelaide game?
Yeah, I feel like shocked is probably a word that is out of my vocab this year because I feel like nothing can kind of shock me about Carlton anymore. So I did think that we were going to respond, and I was feeling like we could win this game, even though Port are an informed team and it's away from home. I still thought that we had a fair chance to have a good crack at it. In hindsight, I guess the writing was on the wall with a really disappointing North game. Injuries, you call them injuries, but what Cripps was going through and those little things, 5-day break, and us not really standing up in the high pressure situations in the last couple of years. Yeah, I guess the writing was probably on the wall.
I definitely wasn't shocked personally with that performance. And it kind of just goes back to how many of these shock losses have we had? And then all we can think leading up to the next game is surely they'll respond to this. And seemingly under this regime, I feel like we rarely have really come out firing that first quarter of that next contest. It feels like it maybe takes 3 or 4 weeks before you start to see an uptick in any kind of form. And I had people at work asking, are we tipping Carlton to beat Port this week? Surely they respond after that. And I was kind of telling them, mate, I've seen this club for so long. I'm not expecting a response. And that's kind of the sad point about where we are. Now, at time of recording, Jacob Wiedering has come out with some quotes saying, we're disappointed. We know the fans are. We're going to be, at least the 23 fellas that are wearing the jumper against Collingwood are going to respond. Does that fill you with confidence, or is it just more words again? You kind of need that actual reaction in the real life for you to truly buy in.
Oh, it's hard because I kind of want to put confident in the same basket of words as shocked, which is like I just can't be confident with anything at the moment. But like anyone that says that it's not possible that we can win this game, it just doesn't follow football, because any team can beat any team on their day, no matter what. That's not me as a Carlton supporter. That's any team going up against Collingwood has a chance to beat them this Friday night, even though they are one of the strongest teams in the league and we're in turmoil at the moment. So am I confident about the response? For some reason, I feel like it's more likely than not that we will be pleased with the effort that we get on Friday night. That's my current feeling.
Yeah, his words were a lot more stern and direct than I think we've heard from a lot of others. He seemed very like there was a finality to we will respond rather than we're going to try our best to respond, which feels like the rhetoric I think we get quite a lot. I'm interested to see how it plays out. Again, like you, no one is confident that anything will turn around.
How can you be?
we just need better than what we saw. And I guess that goes to a quick review of that Port Adelaide game. And around this time when everything is going wrong and in previous losses, it's been poor skills, poor coaching. A lot of other areas have been poor. The one thing that seems to have been there regardless has been the effort. Where does that concern you that effort wasn't there and it might now be lost? Is that the coaches lost the group? Talk me through how you've kind of reacted to that lack of effort and intensity against Port Adelaide.
It's a really difficult thing to place, the effort. Like, I feel like it's been a little bit of a through line throughout this podcast when there's games where we feel like there's a lack of effort and we try and place where that comes from. And it's such a hard, like, psychological thing for us to do because we're just like, we just feel that if you're a footy player is your job, like, it's just kind of the bare minimum that you expect. So I don't know why that happened. Like, the easiest way to put it is kind of what I went through before of the short break, all of the pressure, and us feeling like we don't have the players. An analysis that we've done earlier in the season that you led of, like, who do you trust in the big moments, or when the chips are down, like, who do you turn to? And those guys just aren't there.
Does that mean then this week up against the in-form team in the competition that where you're probably not going to get that effort again if they couldn't back it up last week? Is this just the predicament at the moment where everything is going bad and it is a sinking ship?
Well, the nature of it is just so unpredictable, I think, which is why, logically, you're probably right. Like, Collingwood are, to me, an objectively better team than Port Adelaide. So it should be even worse. But we just know that footy isn't like that. And for some reason, with the bright lights on us, it could just be the time for it to be when it turns around. Like, there's no logic behind that. But that's kind of the beautiful thing about footy, I think.
Yeah, 100%. And to take the negative side of it, I think if this is the week we really do not respond and you don't see us bring it, I feel like that's really curtains for this iteration of everything. As much as it probably already is, there's going to be a lot of change at the end of the season. That could be the true tipping point, if it hasn't already happened, in this season. And a lot of people's jobs that maybe there was a slither of hope. I think that could genuinely be the end.
Yeah. And it's hard to know what that means, like the end of what and all that. But I'm with you. There's something about it. There's something about the North loss that didn't feel final, the Port game that also didn't feel final. But there's something about this one where I feel like if we do see no change and we are just completely embarrassed walking out of the MCG, that you and I will be sitting here on the podcast. And I won't have that optimistic energy going into the next week. And I won't be... Who do we have after Collingwood? I'm not even sure. I won't be excited for that.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I guess talking a little bit more specifically, the big stat I'm hearing quite a lot at the moment is, and this kind of goes to that, is it coaching? Is it players? Who's more at fault for what? We are the best or one of the best at transitioning the football from D50 to forward 50. It's just that execution that is lacking because we're one of the worst at then converting that into scores. When you've heard this stat get thrown around quite a lot over the last few weeks, for you, does this give more, I guess, evidence that this is a player issue and that Voss maybe actually does know how to coach, that his game plan is right and it is execution? Some of the players are saying people aren't playing their roles. We'll find others that do. Or is this a misleading stat? I'm really interested to kind of get your thoughts and take on this weird, all of a sudden we are a good transition team, but other little things are letting us down.
Yeah, I think anything like this can be misleading. I think it's been interesting to me. I mean, it is fascinating hearing people's opinions on Carlton, whether they're a Carlton fan or not. Something that I feel like I noticed since this game is people being like, my opinion was it was the players at fault. And now after this Port game, I now think that Voss has lost the players. And vice versa. I've heard people saying, I always thought that Voss was at fault, but in this game, it was the players that didn't try. And I'm interested to know, obviously your thought on that, but I think just the duality of that shows how complicated it is and how little we can understand, because I've gone both ways from this. There was part of me that was like, what could Vossi have done in that first quarter? Like, this was just so player-led. But he is the one that we brought into this club 4 years ago to be the motivator, to be the culture guy. And so who else but our like fearless leader can you put the blame on for that?
Yeah, it's a complex issue, and it's why, I mean, the answer clearly is multiple different people.
Yeah,
it isn't just Voss.
Point at one.
It is also the players, but I think to go onto the Voss side of things, I had this note for later, but it's very poignant for now, is just, yes, the players aren't executing well. You can easily look at the North game. Some of the missed kicks, missed handballs. You almost feel sorry for Voss at times, saying, what hope does he have if this is the skill execution?
Shots on goal.
Everything. But
conversion.
It comes back to me where I'll shift the blame more onto him than I will the playing list. If someone isn't playing their role, you find someone who can. He's yelling at Bins the other week. They're talking about it now. I can understand that if you're in the first year of your coaching with a list, you find, like, I think I spoke about this earlier in the season, in that you find those that will play your role. How are we 4 years in and we still can't find the players that can execute Voss's game plan? This should have been turned over years ago. We shouldn't be 4 years in and now we're just figuring out, these guys just can't play the way Voss wants them to. And if they can't, then how is that not being the thing that we're portraying in the media, in our comms, that, look, they just don't, Voss is the right person. We've got the right coaching. We've got the right system. It's not working with this playing group. We're going to have to change things around that. And maybe we're a little bit further behind where we thought we were. But for me, it's your job to motivate the players and make them competent at succeeding in their roles. And right now, none of that is happening.
Yep.
The best we've seen was 2023 in a small section at the back end of the season. That's now the outlier for everything. What we've seen for the majority is that we're not great. And that for me comes down to Voss rather than the players.
And I think when you think back to that period, and tell me if you disagree, but I think a lot of us remember that time for the role players and how they stepped up in that time. It's the guys now that when I'm picking my best 23 for Collingwood, that I'm like, do I want this guy in the team? They're the guys that 2 years ago, either because of themselves or because of the way that the coaching was allowing them to shine. That's kind of how that happened.
And the worry of just like how it can fall so quickly for so many of these players. It's so hard to then just pin it all on them as well. Like, they have to take at least some fault, clearly. And I still think there's massive holes in the list. But end of the day, we're not getting the most out of what we have. And other teams have worse talent, are playing better football.
Agreed.
That for me tells me all I need to know. And I think going back to this stat, which is kind of the main thing I wanted to address, is we're the best transition team. Look at the way we move the football. I think it kind of tells you everything you need to know. We're really good at moving it from D50 to forward 50, but we can't do anything in forward 50.
Correct.
If you look at the way we defend and the way we structure up, every single person is defending for us so deep. Our small forwards push up extremely high. Our high half forwards push up extremely high. It's why if every single player is in one section of the ground, you're probably going to be able to move the football. And I now understand why when you get to that final third, no one's there. They've had to work so hard to get to that position that it all just falls down. So I feel like the way in which we're structuring up and sitting ourselves around the ground in such congested spaces, one allows us, to look good for 20, 50 meters. But once you get outside of that, it's easy to defend and it keeps breaking down. And while a lot of the media keep using this as a really positive stat, I think if you're looking at the eye test and the results out of this isn't a positive thing. You're making this stat mean something it actually doesn't, because they're not looking at it deep enough. At least that's how I kind of see things.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. The difficult place that I'm in is I don't know what my opinions are on what should be kind of changed right now.
Yeah.
Often I've been very opinionated in the past on that, and in a game like this where it felt comical at times the way that things were going wrong. Yeah, like do you have tangible things that you like want to share in that regard, or like where's your mind at in terms of like the game style at the moment?
It's so hard to pinpoint because, yeah, just so much is going wrong. I think the first thing was just, I feel like we need to sacrifice a little bit of our defense. It just feels
Yeah.
like we're really trying to congest and pack it in from such a deep point of view. If we sacrifice a little bit of that for attack, for free flowing football, because at times we try to be quite methodical and move it, and it just doesn't feel like that's us. That's the playing group right now. The best we've ever played is when we're direct, quick with handball, moving the football, and have numbers ahead. I feel like just little adjustments like that can help us. If we play more aggressive, take the game on, but end up conceding more goals, because it feels like at the moment we're worried about conceding big scores. That's why we're defending this way. Look, we might lose more games, but I think I'd sit here and appreciate things a little bit more if you could see us really trying to win games of football, trying to put scores on, rather than being this weird defensive team that we kind of are right now.
It does feel like we rarely put kind of like that winning score on the board. It's the games where, yeah, we find a way to keep the other team to a low score, which is when we get over the line. But why can't we try a little bit the other way?
No, 100%. And I guess my question with this scenario we kind of have built for ourselves,
Yeah.
do you think it's a blessing? I guess, that things have turned as bad as they are at this moment, because they were kind of starting to teeter around for a lot of this season, but everyone kind of expected us to get a few more wins than we have and at least be, maybe we make just limp into finals again like last year, or maybe we just miss out, but we kind of middle of the road here. So is it better that we've actually completely fallen off? Because now you can make change. Now you can look at it and say things are really bad. Because it looks to me as if there's been some issues throughout this club, top to bottom, whether that's executive level, whether that is coaching group, playing list. Feels like it's almost been built on sand. And maybe this was always going to happen at some stage because not everything has been perfect. Now it's gotten so bad, you can truly make sweeping change across every single department. Because like this game against Port Adelaide, it was the players to blame, the coaching's to blame. You can look at administrators to get us to this point with their decision-making and hiring. It's kind of top to bottom. This is a disaster right now. Maybe that is a positive rather than if we had beaten North, beaten Port, then you lose to Collingwood, you lose to Brisbane, and you just kind of sit in middle of that ladder and you think, maybe we just make a few little changes and back it in. Whereas maybe this is genuinely what this club needs, top to bottom. Every single department needs a few changes rather than maybe it just would have been some coaches at the end of this.
It's a really interesting question. Where my mind immediately went to was when Ratton was fired. And it's difficult for me to go back to that time apart from like where we were on the ladder and like what that like where the wins and losses were for that season. Because I think when people are critical of that, it was like, well, things weren't that bad. Like, why couldn't we have just kept trying? So that makes me think that, yeah, maybe you're right. And if you do believe that we need a new coach, then if we finish 9th this season, that narrative of like, oh, Carlton's just always changing coaches for the sake of it is there. But if we end up finishing, I don't know, 15th, it's a lot easier to stomach that. Does that resonate?
Yeah, that's kind of my thinking of this. It exposes every single department across the football club. Eyes will be looking everywhere to find the fault when it gets to this level. So it'll be interesting to see if that is a positive thing in taking that step. Just because I think when you really look at so many things deep down, so many little things haven't kind of been addressed, and we've just been going back with it, thinking natural evolution will improve it. Think about the coaching. We've had this known deficiency for Voss in the tactics. We've got some assistant coaches. We didn't really improve the assistant coaches.
Yep.
We sort of backed it in thinking it'd get better. It hasn't. We kind of backed the list in thinking it was going to get better. It hasn't. We kind of backed in guys like Brad Lloyd in the football department thinking, well, he's just going to kind of keep going and improve as we get going. Now, all of a sudden, because it's so horrific on field, eyes go everywhere and you think, well, maybe we can change that. And it's easier to, like you said, to stomach it and sell it across the board because of the poor result. Kind of everything is open slather. You can almost sack or move on anyone and it feels just.
I don't want to mess with your run sheet because I know there's a bit more to talk on coaches, but can I try an exercise?
We can move to it right now. Absolutely. Let's go.
A little exercise, and I was thinking about this during the week and trying to get my opinions, and I haven't given you a chance to prepare for this, which is maybe good because I want to get your gut feels. And it is on that narrative that people, and I think this is more driven by non-Carlton people, of the whole, oh, this would be so Carlton to just sack a coach. They're always doing this. They're always changing. So I want to do a really brief kind of like hindsight is 2020 exercise.
Yeah.
And maybe try not to overthink these too much. Go with a bit of a gut feel. Do you think that hiring Voss was a mistake?
Yes. I did at the time. So that's why I'm going with that answer.
Do you think that firing Teague when we did was a mistake? The firing.
No, it was the correct call.
What about hiring Teague? Was that a mistake?
Mistake.
Agreed. Was firing Bolton when we did a mistake?
No. I think it got to a stage. Yeah.
Was hiring him a mistake?
This is one.
Think about that time.
This is the thing. Results say in hindsight it was the wrong move. I still think it was okay.
Me too.
Because I think we brought him in as a nurturer. He was the next potential big coach. He had coached a couple of games for Hawthorn and they won. So the rhetoric around him was he's that next coach. He's a nurturer. It's what the young team need. I think it was a fine hire at the time. It just didn't work out. Maybe no one was going to work out with such a young team anyway.
He was from the Hawthorn dynasty. He'd put some runs on the board when Clarkson was ill. When we fired Malthouse, was that a mistake?
No, not a mistake.
Agreed. Was hiring him a mistake? Don't put the words in your mouth.
I didn't think it was so much at the time, but I think it clearly for so many other reasons it was that I maybe didn't think about as much.
Yeah, I'm with you. At the time, I didn't think it was a mistake. In hindsight of what we now know of him.
Yeah.
God, I saw him talking about the Tom Lynch punch. Did you see this clip?
I haven't. Oh, I'm glad I've missed that.
I have no respect for this man at all.
Oh, no.
So in hindsight, big mistake bringing him in. But at the time, I agree with you, no. And then finally, Ratton, do you think that letting him go when we did was a mistake?
Yes, did at the time as well.
Agreed. And was hiring him a mistake?
No.
Agreed. What I think that exercise shows is that more often than not, we actually made the right decision. Hiring Teague, I think, was objectively wrong. Yep. And in hindsight, really clear that was wrong. Firing Ratton, also wrong in hindsight. The Voss one, I disagree with you. I think that wasn't a mistake. And I think that that's what we needed. But I totally hear your arguments and I understand why people would think. So I think when you actually look at it like that, and tell me if you don't think that was a useful exercise, a lot of the firings and hirings, particularly the firings, were actually all, except for Ratton, the right call in hindsight.
Well, I love that you've brought this up because this is 100% my opinion on this. And I have maybe a more ruthless take to this.
Do it.
What is so bad about, you've gone through 30 coaches. You keep firing them. But what if that keeps being the right call? Like, yes, at the end of the day, you want to eventually hire the right person. You're just hiring the wrong people. Like, but you're firing them for the correct reasons. If it has gotten so bad, holding them is not going to make it better. So why is it? I don't understand why it is such a bad thing that you move on. If someone is not up to the job, you you fire them, you bring in the next person. The bigger issue is maybe, well, who's hiring these people and how are you hiring them? Because clearly something is breaking down at this level.
Mm-hmm.
However, someone's not adequate and performing, they lose their job. That's unfortunately life. Sad thing is that it keeps happening. But again, I agree with you it being the right call. And I kind of wanted to ask this question because how much of a role do you think? I think you've answered it, but I want your opinion. I want everyone who's watching this on YouTube to drop their thoughts in the comments. If you're listening in audio form, head over to the socials at Navy Blue Corner. How much of a role should our history of sacking coaches play in the making in this decision of whether or not we move on from Michael Voss? Because that feels like people aren't saying keep Michael Voss because of it's Michael Voss, it's what he's done. It's almost all we do is sack coaches.
Correct.
We need to let him have one more year and see out his contract. So how much should that play a role?
I really don't think that it should. And the biggest unknown here for me is who is actually out there properly as an option. And that's why I've said a number of times on this podcast, I'm having to put my faith in Graham. And I know this is going to be a topic we discuss as well, but I'm putting my faith in him that if he looks at the landscape and says, there is no one better for us right now than Vossi, then I will back that in. And if throughout this year he's seen that, you know what, John Longmire, for whatever another name, is better for us right now, then I would, oh my God, nothing would make me more upset than if we found out that they didn't go that route because of the narrative and because we didn't want the narrative to be
we want
that
stability.
We are always changing coaches.
Is the weird thing, this stability word, which stability is great if things are working well, but can you really fix something with stability? Stability to me is like you're not improving with stability. Stability is fun for certain things, but for winning, you need change. You need to evolve. That's for me. I hear stability. I hear stagnant. I don't like that word. I think it's poor. And on this, I did a little bit of research on Carlton sack a lot of coaches, and I tried to look at a few teams for comparison just to see this, because we're the only team that seems to be Carlton sack coaches. That's what they do. So let's just look at a few other teams, and I've kind of gone from 2000, 2001, looked at a few other clubs that have struggled and had some dips at similar stages since then, and taken out all of the caretaker coaches because they don't count as a coach. The media love to throw in a John Barker and those kind of coaches and say, look at how many coaches we've gone through. He was a caretaker. He's not a real coach. It doesn't count. So anyway, let's have a look through this. So we've gone 7 coaches in 25 years, 3 since we started this rebuild, 2015, 2016. Richmond have had 4. Melbourne, who have struggled, have had 5. Brisbane, 4, who had a big, strong dip throughout. North Melbourne have had 6. Essendon, I completely stuffed that up. Essendon and St Kilda have also had 7 in that same period. Both being
would be in there.
Basket cases through there. At least the Saints have had some sort of uptick throughout. Our longest
surprising that they've had 7.
Our longest serving coach in that time has been Brett Ratton, coaching for 6 years. So comparing that, we're not alone in being bad at hiring coaches and going through some poor form. I think comparably to some of those, they've at least maybe had a good patch where a coach has lasted for quite some time, and then a struggle patch of we're just burning through coaches because we're not getting it right. And then they hopefully finally get that right person. We just haven't been there yet. And I just do not subscribe to the opinion that just because you've sacked someone previously and your previous actions mean you can't actually objectively analyze the current scenario. What happened previously should not be a factor. It means nothing. it is not a tangible fact or any real evidence as to what your next move should be. And if anyone at the club is looking at it from a perspective level and what you want the football world to see, pack it in. We're in trouble if that's the case.
Yeah. And you really hope that they're not thinking that. You really do hope. And I think you and I, tell me if your views changed on this. I don't think that we should do anything before the end of the season.
I am asterisk with that. It depends how bad this gets. If every week is like that Port Adelaide game from last week, where it's like there's no effort, it's just horrific. I think then something has to happen. It can't be after the Collingwood game. There's no way we can give them the enjoyment of us sacking a coach because of that loss. I ideally would say see out the season.
Okay.
If the decision is to move him on. But yeah, I worry if it does get really bad like it is, you just almost need to pull the trigger. How do you kind of sit on
to a caretaker?
I think you just have to. Like, it's not going to be anyone else, but just to try and stop that narrative. Not necessarily stop the narrative, but like stop what is happening right now, building to what it is, because it's that pressure that the players are clearly going to be feeling. Only will keep building as it gets worse, and it won't be getting any better.
So do you think then? And it's really hard to predict this, but let's say that the next 2 games are diabolical.
Yeah.
And he goes, and Ash Hansen's the caretaker for 6 weeks. Do you think that does relieve pressure from the players? Or do you think that it would?
I feel like to a degree it does. That's why clubs seem to do it so often you don't have to worry about, is it still bad? Are they going to sack him? The conversation kind of just ends. And it looks forward to next season. I think it's why teams always seem to win that first week after they have their coach sacked, because of that pressure release, because of the story kind of goes off them. And I think at this point, we're kind of late in the season where regardless, it probably won't affect too much. I think that the worry and why you move them on is how much is this negatively affecting the players? And do you think it's a positive thing to move on from the coach?
Yeah. And that's hard to know. That's hard to know. But yeah, no, I don't. I think you're making a lot of sense there. I still, no, I'm not even gonna put that out into the atmosphere.
Yeah, but you kind of brought it up, and I want to see if you do have an answer for this. I want your no fence sitting. I want your opinion. Are there any options out there right now in the coaching ranks that for you are a clear upgrade on Michael Voss that you would be interested in?
The answer is no on the clear upgrade point of view, because I have to be humble from where I sit. I don't understand enough about the 4 walls, and we've heard nothing but support for Voss from all the players, and the people. So I have to believe that. But there's definitely people that get my mind ticking, and you could definitely convince me on them.
What would be your reasons? Firstly, name them. And what would be your reasons as to why you don't currently have them as above? Is there something that you are seeing or that has you a little bit concerned if we did hire this person to take over?
Well, it really just goes back to the fundamentals of like the head coach role and how opinionated or what you think their role is and how impactful that they can be. For example, well, you could insert any kind of head coach, but let me say, we'll say John Longmire. And maybe this is a hot take, not sure if it is or not, but I couldn't be objective in saying that he's a great coach, because there's so many circumstances that go into a coaching tenure. And the player, like there's 44 players on this list that have so much impact on winning and losing. And you have to say, could you insert a different person and they would have had even better impact or not? So just looking at it and saying, well, Nathan Buckley won a flag and Nathan Buckley made, was it 2 grand finals? in his tenure and say, well, Michael Voss has never made a grand final, so he's a better coach. I just think that that's lazy. So I don't know. I just don't have the evidence to be able to say whether someone would be objectively better or not. And I've given you two names that interest me there.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll go the John Longmire one firstly. I think where my mind would say I think he's a really good coach is the list I think he's had at Sydney. Every year I'd kind of look at it and think, how are they making a grand final with kind of what they've got? Their key defenders are really nothing. Their forward line isn't amazing. They've got a decent midfield, but their pieces seem to just work so well. And obviously, how much is that him? How much is that? So many other elements. I totally get your point. I think it's really, really valid in this. He would be the one I think he is a clear upgrade, doing it in this modern footy. My question for him, and this is why he's maybe not 100% nailed on for me, is he actually motivated? This feels like the Mick Malthouse thing well, had previous really good success, but maybe that's just him done now. Maybe that's all you can get out of him, and he wouldn't actually care as much to, get that grand final win after the last couple of grand final appearances.
Yeah,
that would be my concern. How much does he actually want this job? And then Adam Simpson's name gets brought up, but I think his end of West Coast just makes me so nervous about what could potentially happen to us. And if it does kind of fall off, I just don't think he's that rebuilding coach. He's so settled in WA. I've heard he has I don't know how important this is, but he's got Hungry Jack's franchises over there. So it's how much would he be willing to move over if he's actually got businesses to run? Little things like that. Just again, it's motivation. It's what we saw. And then Buckley, well, they got rid of him because of his almost archaic football style and getting what he could out of a list. They bring in a new coach and they go on to win a flag. I don't think Buckley's even in a conversation for me.
Really? Yeah. Okay.
No.
Interesting.
I don't even know. Yeah.
Well, that kind of shows just how differently the two of us can kind of read these situations because of what we know and our perceptions of these players and not these players, of these coaches and what their tenures meant. Yeah, I disagree with Longmire and the players. I think he's had some of the best midfielders of this generation, with your Josh Kennedys and your Heaney's and your McVeighs and Tom Mitchells, and he had arguably the best forward of the 21st century in that forward line. Some weird players around there, but this is just how you and I remember.
But does that make you think, oh, well, Carlton have Harry Mackay, Charlie Curnow, Patrick Cripps, Sam Walsh, throw Cherry into that, Wiedering. We've got some stars too. Does that not make you think, are you judging him too harshly to say it's just a few stars on the list? Because I think every list is poor. I would say that, as wholes, not poor. Every list is decent, but I think it's all about the coaching group and the head coach to be able to get the best out of them. And I feel like he certainly did for Sydney for a long time. You see the drop off in 1 year of him not being there. That makes me think quite heavily that he did play a big role in what Sydney were, seeing the Coxie drop off.
Fair. What's your take at the moment on Clarkson at North?
I was nervous when we were linked to him at the time anyway, thinking he might be past it. I'm still thinking he was probably done when Hawthorn moved him on. Whenever a club moves on a coach and gets the younger one, I think the evidence would show they were done. Rarely has a coach ever been sacked and then comes back and is better or at least the same.
What's the difference to Longmire in that regard then?
I guess in a sense it was him moving on rather than him necessarily being sacked. But this is why I am hesitant anyway, because is he actually motivated to do it? And it feels like it would be a potential another Malthouse one. As far as his coaching ability, I'd say it's better. But are the environmental circumstances there to actually make it good and better than Voss? That's what I'd be concerned on for him. I am in no way saying I want Longmire to be the coach because I
Yeah.
have so
No,
many
I hear.
reservations.
I hear. Yeah. Exactly. Well, that's why it's so hard to be definitive on that and be like, yes, go after this guy. Like, I just can't hang my hat on that with anyone.
Whereas when
Like, who
Teague
would there
went,
be?
there was
Like, if
multiple choices for us.
that's it seems like that was the case.
You look at
And who would
every
you have
news
rathered?
article, and no one right now is coming out with, here's this list of people that could coach Carlton that would be the best coaches. Feels like they don't know who the next crop of assistants are. Almost after you had Kingsley, Voss, McWalter, Uze, once they all kind of went, there's no other name that's been going for these jobs for a fair few years right now. So it makes it a really tough time to even know who could be that next crop because we kind of haven't heard about them.
Me too.
So I guess off the back of that, let's say we keep Voss. He's the man. We couldn't get any better. Let's back him in for at least one more year. He's contracted for one more year. Doing that and moving on the assistants and refreshing things like, a Hardwick did that always gets spoken about, these little things. Is that a good thing, or does that potentially cause other problems? Where do you kind of sit with backing in the coach, moving in the assistants as the right move rather than changing it all?
I'm interested to hear what you mean by like other problems, because it feels less disruptive to me to go that route. And if you believe that Voss still has the players still have his back, and you believe in him as the motivator, which is, I think, how I remember the narrative in 2022, that it's like he's going to be the heart and soul, and we'll have the assistants to be the tactical ones. And then you look at each section of the field and you're like, how does our forward line have a coach right now? Like, what is the forward line coach saying? So that's where my gut goes, that making changes in this area is the play.
Could I to challenge you a bit on that? If you're saying he doesn't have the tactics, we've brought in guys to be the tactics and they couldn't get it done, does that not then go back on the coach and say, well, you need a coach that has tactics because you can't rely on the assistants being good enough? Because that's kind of my first concern is they knew this when they hired Voss, that the big problem was tactically that's not his best skill set. So then they hired assistants thinking we need the best support around him. Evidently that hasn't worked. So what is the faith that they can do it again, or that there are assistant coaches that have the ability to make up for a coach that is tactically deficient?
I guess my take is based on the fact that we are keeping Voss in this scenario. And so it's only if you believe in, like, if you said, the plan is we keep him for next season, he's seeing out his contract. Well, then are we keeping all the assistant coaches the same? It would be nonsensical to me to make no changes if Voss was going to stay.
Oh, I think you definitely, if that's the thing, you have to make changes. I agree with you on that. I think it's more that circumstance over sacking him and moving everyone. What's the better alternative? And if you back him, does it cause more issues? Because I think the issues that I can see is, one, can the coaches actually fix his deficiencies? Is that enough? And are they out there and available? Because we failed once before. Who says that they are actually out there and would come to the club? We're in a position where, why would you go to Carlton? If you're a player, if you're a coach, anyone, why would you touch it? I don't know why. And then what happens a year on after that if things aren't fixed? All of a sudden, you're looking at, let's say it doesn't work and you're sacking Voss. Well, now you've got all these assistants that you're kind of stuck with that makes it harder to hire the next coach as they're looking at it and not being able to bring in all of their guys. And then what if those guys don't blend with the right next head coach and you're kind of stuck in this cycle? The best part of this could be, okay, well, let's only offer the assistant coaches a 1-year deal as a failsafe. But then are you attracting the best? Because who would just sign for 1 year and no security? I feel like backing in the change of assistants is such a gamble that if it doesn't work, it just makes it so much harder down the line. And that's the kind of thing I am wrestling with at the moment, because I don't know if it's just Voss that's the problem or whether it's everything, and whether that support would fix it. But the worry is if you do bring in those assistants and it still doesn't work, that problem kicked down the road for another year almost becomes worse.
You could call this me running all over your run sheet, or you could call this the perfect segue. The person that is in charge of making these decisions is the person that has been through this whole era of everything. There's one person that knows the coaches and their dynamic better than everyone. And that's the person who is not giving me the faith right now. And that's the person that reports into Graham Wright. And so there's going to be a decision over whether Brad Lloyd is right for this job or not. And I think that is step one to me. Because do you have faith that he is going to make the right call over whether it's Voss or the assistants? I don't.
He should have been sacked years ago. Shouldn't have made it past the first review.
So if that's step one, then I feel better about somebody looking at this a little more with fresh eyes and going, oh no, it's like these assistants are the ones. Like, let's not mess with this. You know get what I'm saying?
I totally get you. And this kind of raises something as well that kind of ties into it all, is we need to make that move kind of quickly then.
Yeah.
I think it's very obvious that Brad Lloyd isn't the guy. And we need to make some sort of change, and that's the obvious lever to pull. With that, if we're then having to make decisions about a coach and everything, he needs to come in quick.
Yeah.
We cannot sit there and have another situation like when we hired Voss, where we weren't the first ones to make all the hiring selections. Collingwood were. And I know it's an easy example when it works out for you. I'm sure there's other examples of the first team being able to get all the assistants and the head coaches and it not working out. However, we kind of need the best of everything. And if we're slow on moving and hiring that head of footy, all of a sudden the best head coach isn't available. The best assistants aren't available. They've gone somewhere else. And then we're back with, well, we've got Voss and we've got these shit assistants that aren't going to be good again. And it kind of worries me on that. I feel like a decision needs to be made quickly. And from all accounts, Graham Wright is already taken over Brad Lloyd's job and has for quite some time because of how bad that football department is.
Maybe you'll call me out for being tinfoily here, but is it a coincidence then that like we're hearing from Brad Lloyd in press conferences now when he's never like, are they preparing some kind of like, is he the, you know what I mean? You know what see what I'm getting at? Like some kind of scapegoaty thing of like preparing.
I think there's two parts of this. One, it's, I'm going to show you how bad this guy is at his job. He can't even speak to the press. So how is he meant to, behind closed doors, bring that energy that inspires, that can lead this club out of not being able to win a premiership for 30 years? He doesn't inspire me with anything, hearing him talk. But then also, is there a degree of, hey, mate, you've got like the most important job in this football club, massive football club. We never hear from you ever. These things haven't been going well for a while. We pay you, buddy. How about you get in front of the media? Because I don't know what the hell's going on right now. You're a leader that we haven't heard from. We need to hear from you. People are calling for your head. Earn your money. I wonder to what degree both of these are kind of true.
Yeah. I didn't think we were going to kind of talk about that, but yeah. Maybe there's something in that. We'll see.
It'll be intriguing, but I mean, do you think there is too much pressure at the moment on a Graham Wright, just one individual to be the savior and be the one that fixes it? Where do you kind of sit on that at the moment? Because every conversation with Carlton right now seems to be, Well, Graham Wright will be the one to sort it out. Well, we've got Graham Wright at least. And I worry we've gone back to a savior mentality, but we've just chosen a different job description this time.
Mate, it's a great question. Man, maybe I am a little guilty of that too. So I don't have an answer to that question, because I definitely am, like, I'm definitely looking at it as one of my key positives of optimism of him having this year to get everything with a fresh look at this with fresh eyes and with his pedigree and all of that. Yeah. Maybe it does relieve the pressure if there is, a new footy boss as well, 2 new people kind of with the footy expertise.
Yeah. I definitely don't think he can do it by himself. And yeah, we're going to almost have to rely on him, unfortunately, in the sense of I don't think there's enough people currently at the club. So it falls on one person, but whoever we hire for this football boss position, it might be one of the most important hires this club's ever had.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I have nothing to add to that. I think it's really true. That's why, I would be shocked if there wasn't change there.
Yeah.
And now that I hadn't considered either that being replaced mid-season either. But to your point, like if you need time to be able to make decisions on assistants and the like, then maybe we do see it.
Yeah, it's just my concern in if we are late to it and other clubs get the jump and are able to do this, well, then can you make decisions about the list if you don't have a footy boss who's overseeing these things? Or is it fine because you've got Graham Wright, who is kind of doing a pseudo role of that, and that you trust his decision so the next guy can come in, can sort it? This overlap of timelines of people that then have to live with a decision coming in after the fact just concerns me a little bit.
Yeah. Yep. Makes sense.
But talking about our leaders, we've spoken obviously about Brad Lloyd. I think we've got your answer for that. But
yes,
there's such a disconnection right now, I think, with the fans in particular and what is the football club. All of this kind of, to me, when you're in these crisis times and when you don't have connection, you look to your leaders across the board. How much trust do you have in these guys right now? And is that a part of this lack of connection? Where does that lack of connection stem from?
Yeah, we spoke a bit about this before we started recording. And just kind of like the fundamentals of the club and how I just hate the fact that it's like, obviously the media and the whole football world are against us or are against the club. And then when the members and the fans are with, are joining forces with them, it's so sad, because it should be, in my opinion, it should be us defending the club. Like, this is our club. But because of this division that we're feeling, it doesn't feel like that. And it doesn't make you want to stand up and defend it, because if you don't believe that there is connection and you don't feel that we're one. So there's no doubt that, at least for me, I don't feel like there is enough connection there. And it seems like they're trying to put the right steps in place with some things we've seen over the last week or so, which they just kind of had to do. How can they get the people to trust them more? And I think transparency is a part of that.
Yeah, I feel like that's just the biggest issue, and you kind of nailed it there, where when things are bad, you want to hear from them, and you want to.
Yeah,
it's the toughest job ever, because they have to almost convince us, and that's so difficult. You've got to choose your words so well. You need to be charismatic. You need to be all these things to buy in, but it's just what we need. You need to sell us the dream, sell us
what leadership is.
Tell us where we sit right now, and then sell us on the future. If you tell us something we're not, we don't believe it. If you sell us something that doesn't make sense, we can't buy in. And right now, I just feel like we need the leaders of the football club to talk directly to us fans and prove to us that they are the right people to move us forward, because they themselves would believe it. It's why they're in that role. So tell us why. And then we will believe, and then we can come together as one. It's kind of the issue right now. They're not really selling us on this dream, selling us on why they know the right answers, why whatever decisions they make going forward will be correct. It feels like they're just, I think I used this analogy before we started actually recording, but it's almost as if they're in this castle up on the hill. There's a battle going outside, and they've just shut the drawbridge. And us fans who are meant to be in the castle with them, we're just on the outside in the mayhem, being like, hey, we're over here. Like, talk to us. Like, help us. We're meant to be a part of this club too.
Yeah.
But we're just kind of be left out to deal with it. The ones who emotionally struggle with everything the most, who feel everything more than anyone else. Because our identities are attached to this football club. Every conversation we have with another person is brought back to something that we can't change. We have no effect on changing how things are. We just kind of have to sit there and wear it. And you're like, well, I'm not Vossi. I'm not Charlie Kerno who just missed a kick. Like, I can't change anything. I can't make us kick the goals. I can't make us be better, but I want us to. And somehow I'm wearing this. Like, you need to, as a football club and as a leader, make sure we're aligned, because we just kind of cop the worst of it without any tangible way of fixing it.
Yeah. And I was reflecting on this last night, and like us with this podcast, and like we have this as a documentation, a diary of like our journey as Carlton fans, but also like I want to be able to be a positive, optimistic voice for the future. And I want to feel like I'm part of the club. And if we're not convinced on what that vision is and the path forward, then how can we? We just spend we spend the whole time being skeptical and wondering. We're not. How can we buy in when we don't understand it?
100%. And like, another thing on this communication wise that I want to ask is, how do you feel when a big narrative tagline that keeps sort of coming out when we have these poor performances from key personnel at the club is telling the fans, oh, you need to stick fat? How do you react to that?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I'm not sure.
I definitely get quite frustrated when I hear that, particularly now, because it's like, it's almost the way I take it, and the way I think a lot of fans take it, is by saying stick fat in the way they are and the way they're communicating this is almost saying, because I know you're not. That's how it reads to me. It is telling me that I'm not sticking fat. And it's like, we have through a lot. And if I don't stick fat through now, that's not my fault, because it's been my whole life, 29 years of zero success, and still we rock up every single week. We pay our membership. We give so much to this football club. We give our time for this podcast to talk about this football club. Don't tell me that I haven't stuck fat, or that it's up to me to turn this around. This is on you guys to do it now. We've done our job.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I take it, and why it kind of irks me so much. Like, you can tell us, you can do it in a different way. You can communicate, I think, what they're trying to say by stick fat in a different way that doesn't come off as such a, it's your job to do this, guys. Fans have done enough.
Yeah. Maybe this is a devil's advocate take, but I'm trying to process this now. Like, does it come from a place of, we are confident that it's going to turn around, so all you have to do is, like, I don't know, for want of a better word, be patient? Like, is that what they're thinking when they choose that narrative? I don't know.
It's weird. And that's why is it them from a club point of view being like, I don't want to be so negative on it, but well, we're going to lose money, so please please stay around. Please pay your money. Please come to the games. It's embarrassing if you're not there. But it's like, you don't have to tell us, because I feel like we're the one fan base that does so much stick through the... You know how many Carlton fans are going to be packing out the MCG against Collingwood after what we've seen? We're still going to go to the footy. We are sticking fat. Like, don't lead with that. Say what you're going to do at this stage. It just feels like such a weird thing to put it on us after everything we've already done.
Yeah, I get that.
And it gets me offside when I just feel like there's a better way they can go through it. And we're meant to have communication experts on the board and staff that are meant to be driving narratives. Yeah. And it's like, have you ever used the English language? Do you know anything? Because the way we communicate has been so poor for so long. And it's so basic. I am not the greatest communicator of all time, and I feel like I can understand these psychological concepts as to why using that phrasing is horrific and not going to get the result you're after.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to say that I think they're aware that they're not doing it well enough. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens over these next couple months. It's a really hard play. It is. I do have to say, it is challenging to communicate in times like this. When wins mask everything. And I guess maybe that's just what they're saying, is it's just like, if you just hold on, we'll win next week, hopefully. And then but I'm with you. Like, there's no doubt that the communication is just not where it needs to be. Because we're not bought in. You and I are two of the biggest nuffies out there, and we're struggling. So we need to hear.
Yeah. Well, that leads us to the great talking point of what we finally heard from the president.
We did.
For probably the first proper time in an actual legitimate interview. He went, the great man, onto Blue Abroad with Terry Degani. Had a bit of a chat. I guess... Firstly, did it help this current situation hearing from the president?
It definitely did for me.
What about it helped the situation? I'm just really interested to kind of know your kind of takeaways from that interview.
I think, I mean, you and I had a couple of texts about this. Like, firstly, I think it is kind of what I said a minute ago, which is acknowledging that they aren't doing a good enough job of connecting with the fans right now. And hopefully I don't make the opposite points here, but I think Robert made a comment. I should have written some quotes down. But he said something about like how he knows how important it is to be having these discussions and how important it is. But then that makes me think, so then why didn't this happen from day one? Like, why wasn't this happening after round one? Or, if like, did you only just learn that this is important? You say that you're a lifelong Carlton fan, which I fully believe that he's as a big enough as us. But so at least I appreciate the acknowledgement that I don't think this is going to be the last of this. And I think this is going to be the start of a different discourse.
I think it has to be. I mean, they've got such an easy way to communicate to their fans. And it doesn't have to be going on a podcast. They can literally film a video and send it out to members or do anything.
Yeah.
Every day, you could literally just get your phone and I know we don't necessarily need that, and that's overkill, but that's how easy it is. I think that's why fans get so frustrated in these times where the media is coming for them, and that's kind of the castle analogy. It's like the media is coming for them, so they hide in the castle, and it's like, well, we're here too. Speak to us.
Yeah. The army.
Also the ones we need to come along with. But instead, it's like at times feels like we get put into that sort of box, which was at least a pleasing thing to hear from him say multiple times. He almost tried to make it a big point in that the outside noise is not the fans. The negative noise is not you. Whether you're being negative or not, that's not the negative noise.
Agreed.
And I appreciated that. Whether it's true whatever, we'll find out from this point onwards. That was nice to hear that at least
Good one.
that's the thinking. I was very pleased with that. And I think
Me too.
I heard from him at the North game at the President's Lunch function. I was very lucky to attend. Maybe not lucky that it was the North game, but my first impressions of him was like, he comes across a little dull. Now, maybe that's the setting. Maybe it was whatever it was. And we've spoken about this wanting such a charismatic big leader. I didn't really get that. This chat helped a little bit more in that sense, thinking, okay, there's a bit more to this guy. Again, to your point, we just need to see this more. We need to see the leaders more, getting us connected, because as soon as things go bad, you see that we're not connected. Immediately we have a bad loss, and Cookie, obviously, I bring this up a little bit, but says it's like a funeral. Maybe it wouldn't be if we felt connected.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's why we struggle so much, because there is just this, no one's on the same wavelength. And so I think it is really vital now that we try to come together. There's always going to be some level of separation, but just make us not feel like an afterthought.
I love that. I really like your point around his point around separating like the press and the noise with the fans, because that's what spurred me to text you and be like, I don't want to be part of that pylon. Like I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be making it, building the pressure even more. Like the small role that I can play is to stand by them and back them up. But I can't back them up if I don't know them and I don't know what they stand for. So like you said, this is the first step into us understanding what is Robert all about and what's the vision, so that we can defend them and defend the castle.
Did you have any other key takeaways of anything that was said, or a general vibe that you kind of got out of this?
Yeah, well, I think I enjoyed. I loved that Terry kind of set it up as like a one take thing, and there was times where Robert would say a phrase or a word like, any business. Oh, I shouldn't.
That was
say
interesting.
business. I really appreciated that, because I know that, like, for me, when I talk in my role, sometimes you can kind of go with the flow of like a sentence and say kind of obvious things like that. But he was clearly checking himself of like, I'm not CEO right now. This is, remember who you are. Well, I'm the president of this footy club. Like, I need to take my business hat off here, like, and know what my role is. That's how I felt about that.
I'm just throwing this out there. I don't necessarily agree with it, but do you think it's a concern that he said business at all when he shouldn't ever say that word about Carlton?
No, I think it was just a slip of the tongue, and him acknowledging that. I liked it.
That weird part of me, really a sick part of my brain, the conspiracy tinfoil hat says that was a deliberate move to say, like, a scripted moment.
I know what you mean.
I'm going to say that we're not a business. Now, I don't actually truly believe that, but it's like, because of this distrust of what they are, that unfortunately my brain will think that. And I agree. I think it was more, because I think we can all do this in certain things. I mean, we were in the sort of music industry for a bit of time. And when you're talking, unfortunately, in a business level with managers and things like that, you have to talk with a certain language. And at times you can, instead of saying fans or something, it's like you use the worst words possible, because that's just how you're trying to talk in that conversation. And maybe that's just where he caught himself, because his day-to-day, he has to say business. That's just the term. And then when he gets out there, he's like, no, it's not. It's not. I hate that I've even uttered those words. I hope that's the case.
That's my thought. And I totally get your devil's advocate point as well. That did pop into my head. But I felt as though I felt him relax more into it as it went along, which I thought was a good sign as well. Like, I feel like he was letting his guard down. I mean, he nowhere near let it down fully, but it was starting to be there, which, again, I appreciated that.
Because one thing I never mentioned to you, I was going to mention on one episode, we didn't do it.
Yeah.
But change your, I guess, the color of your lens potentially on this, but
yeah, go on.
there was a bit of beef basically between Blue Abroad and the club, not from Terry's side at all, but that he was basically talking to someone at the club and they called him and what he does competition for the football club. And the club viewed him
I didn't know this.
in a negative light as competition. And so the club reaching out and doing this interview kind of changed. It's at least, there's still, I guess, some apprehension probably from his side on what this all is. But yeah, there's a little bit of a weird tension, I think. And what does that kind of, how do you react when you hear that the club is even considering fan content, competition for the football club and not something that is a positive for them?
That's incredibly disappointing. Yeah, I've not heard that. Yeah, that's totally viewing it in the wrong way. Yeah, it's such an opportunity. Like it should be viewed as an asset and such an opportunity for engagement. And like you and I, in our 6 years of doing this, we've never reached out to the club to try and have any kind of association. Like we've been comfortable kind of sticking in our own lane. But don't want to speak for you, but if that did happen and they wanted to collaborate in some way to be able to share the message with the people, I would jump at that because we want to be aligned with the club. And we're not going to, you and I aren't going to sell out and change our views and speak propaganda. But the way that we can act as a connector should be viewed as an asset. I've always felt that.
I don't know about you, mate. I love Brad Lloyd, and I think he should stay on for another 20 years. Get me that inside. Get me in the rooms every week. No, 100%. And like that's the thing. Like we're all fans. We're making our opinions from things we don't know all the information of, and not from a ridiculous high level of expertise. But like that's everyone. That's the media. Everyone is just having an opinion, and like you're saying, the club can view that as, I don't like what that person had to say. And, they're taking views away from our content and they're taking a narrative that we don't agree with that misaligns. It's like if you're genuinely having that opinion, get out of the football club. That's not healthy. You should know that not everyone's going to have the same opinion as you. Fans, we're going to be crazy at times. That's why we exist. Join the journey with us. And have a bit of back and forth. Hey, we're not really happy with this thing. Sell me on it. Sell me on that decision.
Yeah.
If you just sit away, we're only going to have negative opinions if things go bad. And I mean, I liked a few points that he said. I liked the constant use of like this calm and rational decision. That will be interesting. That they're going to kind of take their time to come up with the right decision. That whether it's words or not, it feels like an appropriate thing. Yep. I also liked that it seems the culture that they're at least trying to build is more of a nurturing and getting the best out of things. Something that can be spoken about the board is that, are they meddling too much? Are they letting people do their jobs? Are they very rash at their decisions? To hear him say he wants to put people in the positions and then develop with them, give them the opportunity to be able to be the best at their jobs. Those are little things that feels weird. You're like, is that not happening previously? But at least line in the sand now. Let's make sure that's happening because we don't want stories of high-profile Carlton people getting their hands dirty and making things worse.
Yeah. I know my mind always kind of goes to this, and I like putting you on the hot seat. But like, off the back of all this, like, what's your prediction of the next few months? Like, we now have that date that Wright is going to be officially in charge, and Cookie's crossing some things off. What do you think's going to happen? let's say the next 8 weeks.
Yeah, wow. It's hard to know. I mean,
I just want your gut feel.
Club performance, I don't think will get better. I worry it'll only get worse. I would say Brad Lloyd will probably go. He's been there long enough that you make that move.
Yeah.
I think they'll probably keep Voss on and change the assistants. That feels like the vibe I'm getting. I don't know if that's the right call, but again, sell me on it. Show me why it's the right decision. Show me, tell me. And I think to a degree, like you've kind of said earlier, if it's coming from Graham Wright, you're probably more going to believe it.
Yeah. I concur with all of that.
Yeah.
That's my gut.
Time will kind of tell.
I think we're going to have some. I think we're going to have some heartwarming wins still for the rest of the season, and I think we'll have at least one more really poor performance. I know that's kind of quite broad, but I think we're going to feel both ends.
No, I totally agree, and I think the last thing on the interview. There was a bit of a quote. He said, "We're a footy club and our overarching objective is to win footy games and bring real joy and experiences to our members." And then he said, "We don't do that well enough today." He then also said that he'd been asking people internally, how do we leverage that and maximize the benefit, basically, of fans and having that connection. The corporate tones of that kind of concerned me, the use of leverage. And again, this might just be because he's that business person. So those are just the words that come freely to him. He doesn't mean them in that sense. I really hope that the motive behind those words is perfect. And it's that just he wants this togetherness. He wants it. The skepticism in me says that, is it just because if all of a sudden we don't have that connectivity and we don't have that buy-in that they lose money, and that's the only reason he's doing this interview is they're spray painting the walls, the peasants are getting in, they're getting too close to us up here, we don't want them touching us, we need to just do this to save face, and it's all just a publicity thing. I hope it's not that.
I don't think it is. My reaction to that was like, if we again step back and these are real people with real lives and real day-to-days, Robert, while being on the board and while he's the president, he's not so connected to the day-to-day. Like he's got plenty of other roles. I'm sure he's one of the busiest men in Australia. So when I hear him saying that, I think that's him. Maybe it's me being too optimistic. He's going to the people on the front line, the people that work in the club, who that's their day-to-day jobs, the media manager, etc., those kind of people, and saying, all right, I'm feeling the pain right now. You tell me what do we do? What do we do to get better? You're the ones that understand it. How do we leverage the passion better? And that's when hopefully someone goes, well, Blue Abroad is one of the most influential voices. So this could be a start. And that's how I think it would have come about.
I really hope so too. And I'm grateful that all I've been wanting this past month or so is just for someone to come out, talk to us, and make me feel a little bit more positive and inspired. And obviously time will tell. He even said himself, which I liked, saying, I'm going to talk here and it probably means nothing. You're all going to think I'm a big dickhead, but it's going to be the actions that mean it. And as much as that is the case, the actions will show it all. Thanks for at least speaking. I've been wanting that for a while, and I do feel a little bit better after it, because it's like, oh, you exist. You wanted to talk to us. You did. I hope it's the start of something, and why not? Why not go on every month and just chat and have a bit of fun? And then all of a sudden we think you're like a fun person. We get to know a bit more about you, and maybe we will vote you in next time and keep the board, and we won't be saying sack the board because we kind of know you a little bit more. It just feels like such an easy win throughout these periods.
We'll see. Oh God. And this is the funny thing now, where you and I doing this podcast in 3 months, and we were like, remember that time we went on Blue Abroad? That one random time, and we didn't hear another thing. Like, well, That was weird. God, I hope that that's not the case. Like I remember when Sayers came in and we saw the videos, and at least I was saying, "Oh, maybe he's going to be a really
videos."
2022 or 2021 when he came in, and we were like, "Wow, is he going to be this really engaged guy with the members, like engaging a lot?" And it wasn't that way.
Yeah.
So God forbid that this is the same scenario, and we go, "Wow, remember that one time?"
Fingers crossed. But we've been going for a while, but there's still something I want to quickly touch on, and that is the media meltdown of everything right now. Priestley said it's the outside noise. It's not us. Just kind of wanted to touch base on this, and there's so much hysteria, somewhat rightfully so, because we're so bad. But I feel like the best thing we do, Lockie, is try to get some sense of calm around the crazy noise outside. Us, so I kind of want to go through one thing, bit of fun with this. What's been like the worst, your favorite bad take that you've seen over these last couple of weeks from the media? Do you have a favorite of just, you read it, you heard it, and you said, how does this person get paid to have an opinion on football?
Oh, this is really hard for me, Ian, because I just do not consume what I used to in this regard. I used to love hearing every footy show and reading all the takes. So you might have to start, and it might trigger one that I can remember.
Well, there's two main ones for me. One is this whole scenario where I think it was Jordan Lewis came out with the take of Carlton need to like trade Cripps. And it's like, okay, awful take. I can kind of get what you're trying to say. Whatever you've said it, you're an idiot. It's the fallout of that, of then the media reacting to a story that was made by the media that has no actual tangible reality behind it. Kane Corns is going nuts, going, how dare Carlton even entertain this? And you're going, we're not. No one is. You're reacting to something that doesn't exist. And it was like this, the media just going in a circle, yelling at each other over something that's not real. I just thought was hilarious to sort of sit back and go, he knows that's not a real thing, yeah? I just love that. I don't know if you've found any others through the back of that.
That's one that I completely missed in the fallout of all this because of my lack of engagement with it all. It's a crazy thing not being on Twitter, man. You have so much more mental freedom, which I didn't have for years. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm with you. It's so hard to be rational in moments like that and remember where these things come from. And don't
please tell me you saw the Jay Clark one.
Go on.
Of who he thought we probably should trade Harry Mackay for.
Go on.
This is okay. So old mate Jay Clark has come up with a great solution. He's looked at Carlton. He said, look, there's problems with the list. I can fix it. To fix all of Carlton's problems, Harry Mackay goes to Sydney and Carlton receive Ollie, Florent, and maybe some draft picks.
Love it.
What a great opinion.
Is he a Sydney man?
Should we be testing him for CTE or something? I'm concerned. Like, he gets paid, Lockie, a lot of money. And he said that. If he was to say, look, I'm looking at the deal, potentially if Harry moves on, look, maybe a player I'd want to bring in this deal, I feel like he could fix a couple of problems. But it was like a genuine Ollie Florent's the one.
This is the one.
At that stage, playing in the twos for Sydney, fully fit, which was just a wild take. They're very fun, Lockie. You have to sit back and enjoy them.
And it's one of those things where we have to like separate. It's so hard because you and I are so uninterested in clickbait through this media, like our channel, the Navy Blue Corner. Like our takes, we do not come up with takes to try and gain attention. It's so hard to know when you hear the mainstream media make comments. It's like, do you fully believe this? Cannot tell anymore.
No. And I want to run through these scenarios, kind of get your thoughts on it, because this is just the hypocrisy has made me laugh quite a bit. And I just don't get how all these stories come off the back of it when what they're talking about, if you break it down for 3 seconds, it doesn't make sense. Maybe you can give me some insight if I'm incorrect. But
go on.
Again, here we go. So somehow Carlton right now doesn't have cap space. We need to trade a star out to fix this, right? Yet in the same breath, we have $1.2 to $1.2 million to give Tom de Koning. They also say Tom de Koning is leaving, which would mean we have 1.1 to 1.2 million left there. Now,
checks.
Again, my maths isn't great, but is that not $1.1 million minimum that we have? So why do we then need to trade a star to alleviate the cap? How is our cap bursting if we've got all this money? Okay, move that to one side. Now,
Gotcha.
They also say our list is really bad. Wouldn't trading out a top star make the list worse? They are yet to really give me a scenario on it improving us. Get rid of this known commodity. Carlton need to trade them all. Bring in an 18-year-old kid. Doesn't kind of make too much sense for me. If you're able to show me evidence of they move out Harry, bring in this, and this, all of a sudden, they're really good. Onto that, I also say we don't have a first-round draft pick this year. Well, again, doing that calculation from de Koning, I think we're getting that first-round draft pick as compensation. Add on to the fact they're forgetting we have basically a first-round freebie in Harry Dean, who is currently projected to be around that first round, meaning we all of a sudden have gone from 0 to 2 first-round draft picks. You could then even say we've also got Cody Walker coming in next year, 2026. So we could potentially trade that future pick into this year to get another one. And I know the bidding system has changed. Maybe that isn't the play, but I feel like it's still a possibility. Or you can now trade 2 years in advance, Lockie. You could get 2027's pick in, use it this year because everyone thinks Carlton are crap. We're going through a rebuild. We're going to be no good. Get that 2027 pick. Could be the first round draft pick. This is beautiful play. So putting all of that together, somehow out of us having a father-son first round draft pick, a compensation first round draft pick, 1.1 to 1.2 in the cap to spend, also a list that's bad, but we need to trade the stars. They've somehow come up with, we've got no draft picks, no cap space, and we need to trade a star player out. Looking objectively at this, Lachlan, and with the biggest leading question ever on the pod to date, isn't this the most bizarre media narrative that you've ever seen that doesn't make sense when you spend 3 seconds actually looking into it?
Are you going to drop your mic or...
It's connected. It's going to take me 20 minutes to try and undo this out of the stand.
Could you imagine me now spending 5 minutes rebutting all of that?
That's it.
This is now a solo podcast.
I apologize. I realized that probably noise of that mic dropping might have made some noise. Oh, I've tangled every single cord. For those that can't see, this is now not connected to anything. So
behind the curtain.
Answer that question why
while you get your
wrestle with this.
Yeah, I mean it just shows the one-way conversation. Yeah. It doesn't stand up to scrutiny, the takes. Look, let me be an empath, Ian. Don't call this rebuttal. Call me being empathetic. These mainstream media people that have to come up with these calls, it's tough. They have to follow all 18 teams. 19, Tassie. They have to follow all of those things and they need to have opinions on all of them. That is why Carlton channels are so important because we are people that while we have an eye on everything, we are fully invested in this space and we can have rational takes, more rational takes in my view, because we actually, this is our passion. So when non-Carlton people say things like that and they really don't get it, the full situation, how can you really take those opinions?
Or you could fire Jay Clark, pay me $100, find a bunch of other supporters from other teams, pay them $100, and probably come up with better content for each person.
Okay.
I mean, Carlton... wouldn't the content be better, right, if literally they came out and said, is this fixable for Carlton? we've come up with the solution. And it goes through, you spend 10 minutes doing some Googling and you find out, oh, they got a father-son this year, got another one next year, like getting a compensation pick. They could trade some future picks. Maybe they don't need to trade Harry Mackay. Here's a scenario. Here's a few different scenarios of how Carlton can maybe fix this. Would that not be better and more clickbait? We've solved Carlton's problems without sacking Voss.
So what I'm hearing is our DMs are open for the club. Get in touch.
Oh, yeah.
Herald Sun.
My soulmate.
Herald Sun, get in touch.
Ugh.
Because Ian's keen to...
Maybe not. Maybe not that publication, but others I might entertain.
Is that who Jay Clark works for? I'm not up.
I don't know who he works for, but yeah, it was just very funny when I was thinking about it the other day, because I was trying to think of it for some content for us talking about how do we fix this, and we've had that conversation of do we need to trade a star, and it just got me the other day how they keep talking about this salary cap squeeze, but in the same breath they're like, yeah, and Carlton's got 1.2 to give to De Koning, and you're like, you're also saying he's gone. So all of a sudden, do we not have like a war chest? Why is no one talking about the war chest Carlton could spend?
Oh, we have a war chest, baby.
If De Koning goes, Carlton's war chest. Why is that not getting any spin? That feels like a story they can also use. So feel free. If I start to see a story in the next couple of weeks of Carlton's war chest, thanks to De Koning, I want some royalties, please.
Can you make the thumbnail of this video Carlton's war chest and why Carlton's war?
There's a thumbnail.
Carlton's war chest is the biggest asset going into 2026.
Oh, I couldn't do that for my heart and my brain and my soul, Lockie. I hate it. But thought we just needed a bit of a laugh from the media meltdown, because the crazy stories, they've already ramped up. It may get worse, and I'm excited to bring them up every single week, because it's probably the most joy I'm getting out of football right now.
Oh, so if you want to go back to your army analogy, and us being within the four walls, or however many walls a castle has, does media meltdown need to get more? Like you've gone at Jay Clark here. You've lined him up. Do we need to go harder at specific takes? Because I'm not glued in enough to the takes. Maybe we need to hear them and really rebut them harder. I'll stew on that for next week. Let's see what comes out.
I like it. It does feel like
we're out there you're being.
with them, and it's like they're not even attacking us. They're just like throwing a rock and it's hit someone's shoe and gone back and hit him in the face. Like that's some of these takes. That's how it's working out there. It's intriguing. I'm interested to see where it goes.
Let's sit on that.
We don't have too much left to go. I know this has been a long episode. Hopefully people like it.
Thanks for listening.
And are keen for more. But just quickly here, Lockie. Where do we kind of go from here? What in this next 9 weeks? Are you 8 weeks? This is my run sheet from last week that didn't get used, Lockie. 8 weeks. Sorry, you're too busy. This is it. The podcast gets loose when you get very late into it. Absolutely. I'm sorry you had to run the entire of Wimbledon. Apparently that's too important. I get it. But no, over the next 8 weeks, Lockie, what would you like to see? Is there anything kind of getting you through? Because I'm struggling to want to watch these games weekly. That Port Adelaide game ended up being in the background while I did some shopping for some home decor, which you can maybe see a bit in the background here for the podcast. That's how grim it got. So what are you kind of wanting to take from these next 8 weeks?
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? I mean, it's all about, I feel like I probably said this on the last episode, so apologies to everyone, but it's how I really feel. Like you and I used to find so much joy within a match in like those little moments. And that Port Adelaide game really didn't give me any of that. Like Wilson debuting should have been joyful. Young debuting, joyful, like moving some magnets around. Like that joy wasn't there. And you used the word joy with Robert's interview. I guess that's the thing. Like I want to be able to see that even if we're not getting the wins, we're like, okay, we didn't win this game, but Wilson's playing round 1 next year. And he's going to be our run and gun halfback, not playing weird back pocket, not getting any license. Like, they're the kind of things that I guess you have to hang your hat on. We're not playing finals. I've said it, Ian. We're out of finals.
That's sad. Oh,
so
just quietly, not quietly,
mathematically,
quite loudly, but gee, our hot takes when we go back through those at the end of this year are going to be horrific.
You know what?
I'm never going to have a multiple goal kicker prediction ever again.
I'm never having an All-Australian one. You know what's going to be even worse? Do you remember? I hate to even say this. Do you remember the exercise I made you do?
Where we
said, nope. Where we went through every player in our best 20 and said whether we think they're going to have a better season this year or not.
I'd say they all had a worse year.
We found a couple of players that we thought will have a worse year. We're like, my contention was we are going to get better because almost every player is going to get better. We have one player that's been better, and he's been better because he played 0 games last year. So
I'd say Ollie Hollands also has been better this year. I'll give you another.
Maybe it won't be that bad a review of a segment.
We'll see. But I don't want to add anything else because that was absolutely beautiful and pretty much exactly what I would want. Last thing, we got a Pies game coming up. Any big team changes you would like to be made? Are you wielding the axe, changing things up? Because if anyone has been watching the selection table on Pommy in Oz on YouTube, they will know that I've definitely swung the axe over the last few weeks, wanting joy and just bringing in a bunch of young players that I'm excited to watch because I'm kind of bored with what's going on right now. Sard isn't out. JSOS isn't out.
Yeah.
Are there any kind of other players you'd be dropping? Would you be looking to make a statement at selection? Is that something that needs to happen? Get some of these leaders a bit of a reality check? Where are you looking at it with team selection?
I don't mean to make this a 2-hour podcast, so I'll try and be succinct here. But like, as we were talking about 2023 before, and like those role player guys that we were like so excited about and thought that they were on top of the world, as I was like trying to put my best 23 together, I'm like, I had like 4 names on the 4 names listed, and I was like, is anyone else like certain in? Like, I could make a case for almost every player to have a week, apart from like 4 or 5. So, no, I haven't really gone bold with the changes. I think Cowan makes sense to me as the in for Sard, good VFL form, someone that we stand by for our future. And then I guess the question is, with Silvani out, what movement happens there? I think move McGovern back and put Young forward would be my take.
Even though McGovern's been our best forward over the last month?
Was he in this game?
Better than Charlie.
I would personally, I'd feel better, yes, with McGovern back and go Young forward.
Yeah. There's also a case, would you look to bring in Harry O'Farrell as a key defender?
Was my first thought. He was my first thought, and then I was like, but do I actually feel better about just putting Gov back into that back line? And I think I do. I feel like the biggest chance for us winning this game is McGovern down back. Personally,
at least in that scenario, you can swing it during the game if Lewis Young stays in the squad. So it's not the worst thing. I've currently got Lewis Young in defense, and I've kept Gov forward because I've liked him. I've dropped De Koning. I've gone big. I've done it a few weeks in a row now. I just think his form's really, really bad and pretty much borderline droppable. I thought Pitto was better in the ruck against North and surprised he was dropped, to be honest. And I think I'm happy to put my hand up, biased, knowing that it's tinged with he's probably going, hasn't made his mind up yet, and that's kind of just bubbling under the surface, annoying me. So if you're not going to be there next year, what's kind of the point now that our season is done? I'd rather at least see what the midfield looks like with Pitto because he's on the list, contracted for next year. And then past that, Blake Acres has just been frustrating me for quite some time. So he's making way. I'm bringing in Lucas Camporelli and making Ollie Hollands onto the wing, bringing him back to the wing. I feel like we've got enough in defense with like a Boyd, Wiedering, Haynes, Cowan, Lewis Young, Chincotta's back there as well, Billy Wilson.
Okay.
There's enough run and carry. Let Ollie Hollands be on the wing and let's attack. Let's stop getting our best attacking player in defense. Let's push him up higher. Maybe we can get some goals out of that. And then my other move this week is Ashton Moyer comes in after some red hot form in the twos over the last month or so. And I'm basically just dropping Lockie Fogarty for that because while he hasn't necessarily played so much worse than everyone else, I'm looking at that forward line at the moment of Zach Williams can pinch hit in the mid. He's definitely playing. Charlie's in there. Orazio Fantasia has been our best small over the past few weeks as well. Jesse Motlop, I still rate really highly. Think he's been unfairly criticized for playing a role that's not his, and he's still our best small forward. McGovern's in there. Flynn Young, I'm starting as well. I'd like to see a bit more of him.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I'm going, Fogarty's just kind of existing without a strength. His strength is tackles. That's a basic thing that every footballer should be doing. He doesn't hit the scoreboard. I feel like the natural evolution is to remove that kind of player and upgrade. Nothing against the great man, but for me, Ashton Moyer produces a little bit more, has been pinch hitting in the midfield, been playing a bit on the wing, so he can kind of free roam that forward line with a bit of a higher ceiling. And then I've actually also brought in Ben Camporelli for Jack Silvani, which allows a bit more of that rotation to the midfield that feels a bit stagnant. Like Cripps, Chera, Hewitt feels like what we've just been rolling and it hasn't worked. So why not have him in there? Zach Williams, Cooper Lord can go through there as well. Maybe even Ollie Hollands now that he's playing a bit more advanced. And lastly, Sam Doherty will be my sub over Fogarty because he can play a few more roles if there is an injury.
I don't hate any of it. We're going to win.
Yay! What a team that is. With that team, we're unstoppable. But thank you for listening and watching this entire video. It's been a tough one to try and honestly know what to say in these times where we're not just repeating ourselves so much. So thanks for sticking by us. We'll be back.
Stick fat, huh?
Stick fat. That's what I'm asking the people. It's what I've always said, that I love letting the people know to stick fat. But you've ruined the outro. This is one of the worst of all time.
This has been a weird episode, but I've loved it.
It has. Well, currently we're recording in Melbourne time. It is 11:17 p.m. On a Wednesday night. So I'm ready for bed. But I'll edit this and make sure it is up in the morning. YouTube video, who knows? Maybe in the evening, because there's no way I am bothering to edit that now. Apologies. It'll be out whenever you're watching this. I'm not staying up till midnight, Lockie. You making the thumbnail? Are you going to make that, huh? No chance. That's the one. Just screenshot that. Upload it. Oh, no, horrific. Yeah, Carlton's Warchest. I hope you've enjoyed the video. We've lost the plot. But we'll be back next week to review a big win against the Pies. Blues are back on track. There's a pulse. Win. There's a pulse in the heart of the Carlton Football Club. Probably not. Up the bloody baggers. See you guys next time.